What's going on, guys? Welcome back, or I should say welcome to the first episode of This is Oklahoma, The People. The idea for this series is that when I do a podcast, every time I ask my guest, what's the best thing about Oklahoma, and they always say it's the people. Which gave me the idea of starting a new kind of video interview series called The People, to go out and meet the people. So here we are, first episode, Mr. Timmy Riggs.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Flattered to be the first guest.
Oh, gotta be done. Timmy works at BFC, he's a pastor at BFC with the college kids, so we're going to dive into what he does. But before that, tell us a little bit about how it all started and how you came to BFC. And
so I'll just kind of, the whole brief thing. So I'm kind of like you, where Oklahoma is not necessarily my original home. So I grew up in Florida. And came out to SNU, Southern Nazarene University, where we went to school together, and to play football. And I didn't do a whole lot of playing in the games. I did a lot more practice.
Right.
And so just had the really great college career, just as far as making friends, figuring out what I really wanted to do. And my whole life, it's kind of, obviously this conversation could be forever long.
It could be,
especially if you're unfamiliar with someone being a pastor. Your version of a pastor might be, like a priest or something that you just see on Easter and Christmas. So sometimes when I tell people what I do, they're like, oh, they don't even know how to respond, right? So for me, I actually was a pastor's kid. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up in it. But growing up my whole life, I was like, I'm not going to be a pastor. I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
And because people look down on rich pastors,
Right, tax-free, all that kind of stuff,
right.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I can't be both, so I need to pick one. So then I got to college, and again, this conversation of the call, feeling like this is my purpose, this is what God has called me into. I couldn't run from it. But I tried. I went through 5 different majors, business, education, psychology.
Yeah.
I can't remember the rest, but then eventually came back full circle to the theology program, and went 5 years of school, and then graduated with my theology degree. And then we actually went out to Arizona, went straight to Arizona, and I was the associate youth pastor, associate young adult pastor there. And then after being there a year, we had some friends who work here at the church, and called me and said, hey, would you want to come be the college pastor? And of course, there's always so many steps, but essentially that's how we're here now.
Yeah.
And this is my wife's home. So she grew up in Ponca City, and she was there her whole life till she came to college. And now we live here. Her folks moved to Edmond, and so this is home for her.
That's awesome. She's happy.
She's happy, and it's quickly become home for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about it. I feel at home. So.
Well, the whole tie with for those of you who don't know, Southern Nazarene University and Bethany are literally 100 yards apart, right?
Yeah. So our church is literally across the street from the university that we went to.
So there's that time in school. We had together. We always had a huge connection with BFC and the college kids, and it was all right, but it wasn't it wasn't at the level of what it is now. I don't think. And that's something that Jake has done and you have done now to take on the reins. It's awesome. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you did and how all that, coming in, what you wanted to do, and what your vision is for the next 5 or 6 years, like we spoke about.
Yeah. So, I came in and I was really just part-time. When they called me, they were like, hey, would you be our part-time college pastor? And we'll pay for your school so you can go get your master's degree or help out with it. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So I came in and like you just referenced Pastor Jake Garrett, both of our really close friend. And he was the college pastor, and so he was kind of creating another ministry within the church. So they were like, well, hey, let's get you some help. So then they brought me in to kind of help him for us to kind of co-lead the college ministry together. And he he really helped develop the core of our college group. And I've told him 100 times, even the stuff that we've been doing this semester, no way I would have been able to do it if it wouldn't have been for the 2 years that he'd have been putting in with the college ministry and led it to where it was. And so one of the things that he really focused on, and that was really great for our group, was just getting people connected. So like table talk, things like that. And then I wanted to add the element of worship. And so one of the things now that we do, we meet on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. And our band, plug, shameless plug. And our band Royal Company, that's our church's band. They're incredible. They have a song out right now called Never Change. Go listen to it.
Well, they just got some great news.
Yes, right? Great news. They're doing a conference of about 10,000. It's a huge youth conference, and they are the band. They have 7 sessions. So every day of this conference,
they're playing in front of 10,000.
So really exciting. Can't wait.
And they're SNU grads, right?
Most of them, I think all of them.
I know 2 of them are.
Yeah,
right? I think.
No, all of them.
Did they graduate?
Yeah. And so that's really cool. And so we have a record or a cover of Reckless Love out. So if you love that song, go check it out. Our female vocalist who sings it blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
So anyway, we really wanted to get them involved on Wednesday night. So now they're playing, and so every Wednesday night they're leading us in worship, and then I speak briefly. Always try to keep it short because no one really.
Kids.
Yeah, and who's really like, oh, I can't wait to listen to an hour-long preacher today. Like nobody, you know, like, and we try to keep it inspiring while it's also transformational at the same time. Like if you're coming to church, we want to get better. Like even you don't have to believe what we believe for me to believe that there's something you're going to be able to walk away with. That you say, hey, if I implement this in my life, it's just going to make life better. And so that's kind of always our aim. And so right now we're running about 160 students. That was my goal for the end of spring.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And the goal was to kind of double each year over the next 5 years to a point where I think it was 2,560 students in our college group. And that's because, we have SNU across the street, but then we have SCU right down the road, and then you have, OCU, UCO. There's so many schools within a vicinity that they could drive here and be a part of our community, and so it's an Oklahoma City dream.
And the kids that aren't in college, or you don't have to be in college to.
Yeah. This is college age, but like I say, I'm like college age. I mean.
18,
Whatever.
23 or whatever.
Yeah, but like even then, I ran into a guy the other day. He was like 27 and doesn't go to church anywhere, but wants to get back into it. And I was like, dude, come to college group. Like, And as long as you're not a weirdo, like, we'll like you. And got protection first, right? We got to protect our people that are there. But so we just really want to continue to multiply. That's coming from a portion of scripture that Jesus is telling a parable where he says, the servant was given 5, another servant was given 2, another servant was given 1. And the master leaves. When the master comes back, the servant with 5 turned it into 10, the servant with 2 turned it into 4, the servant with 1 held on to it, hid it because he didn't want to lose it.
Gotcha.
And basically the moral of the story was, listen, you don't have to do, if you got 2, if you were given 2, you weren't expected to hit 10. The goal is just to 100-fold, maximize it, throw yourself at it. In fact, when the master talks to the servant who just hit his 1, it basically comes down to, why didn't you even try?
Yeah.
Like, just give it some effort, And so, for me, one of the things that I've really been thinking about, I'm like, all right, we have a pretty good amount of students now. What if we 10x'd it? What if we added a 0 onto it? What would it look like by the end of spring to have 1,600 students, And it's always like, in churches, people, like, literally someone might be listening to this and be like, oh, a numbers guy,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I am a numbers guy, because every number equals a human being with a soul who's got things going on in their lives that, again, I believe we can help out with. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, I've been helping out with Timmy now, for this semester. It's been really good, just to see the impact. Obviously, the first night is always the biggest night, right? It was packed.
Really.
And the second night I was kind of skeptical, and I'm sure you were too. Like, where is everybody going to show up from? And then we had like a rain and ice storm, and they still come.
They still show up, yeah. So we kind of joke about like every Wednesday night, we're like, this is the night. This is going to come. But they keep coming, and so we're believing that God has got big plans for these students in our group and in the future. So,
what do you think? Obviously, building the numbers and continuing to double the numbers over time. But what is like one of the best things for you? What do you really enjoy doing outside of obviously what your job is, right? Which is preaching and touching lives and making an impact. What is one thing that people wouldn't think would be something that you really like doing?
I think the biggest thing is just seeing how a lot of these college students, I'm not way older than them, but I mean, I'm definitely in a totally different stage of life, and just how easily some of them can just become your friends. I mean, just lifelong, I'm like, man, some of these guys are going to be my lifelong friends. And I'm pastoring them right now, and maybe we'll always be their pastor in a sense, but like they're just my friend. I think there's that. I think leading a college ministry, you have a lot of freedom. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot I get to do. I love making like videos, funny videos. I like being funny. So I really have free reign of kind of being able to do whatever I want.
Yeah, you're not preaching to 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old, or like 10-year-old people. Like, you have you get to be you.
That's probably my most favorite part. I get to be me. I get to create content that's fun.
Yeah.
And I get to be me, and that's probably serious. Like, I wake up every day excited. That's awesome. I don't feel like, oh, I'm going to work. Here's the grind. Yeah. Like, don't feel that. Like, I mean, is there tons of moments where I'm like, oh, I got to get this done, or I got to do that. But I mean, as far as like, just the weight of, oh, it's Sunday night. Like, I'm excited when it's Sunday night, you know? Like, a lot of people dread the next day, but like Mondays make me excited.
Right.
So
a lot of, obviously Oklahoma, a lot of people probably assume they know what a pastor does.
Mm-hmm.
Busiest days of the week, right? Wednesdays and Sundays. What is like your Wednesday and Sunday? Tell us what it's like to.
Man, Wednesday could be. So let's pick a really busy day so I can explain how crazy this day was. So Wednesdays 9 p.m. we have our college service. So that's really late for most people. I mean, if you're out of college, they're like, what? On a weeknight, 9 o'clock? College students, that's like 6 p.m. And so we had this one Wednesday a couple weeks ago where we wanted to have a basketball tournament after church, okay?
Right.
So that Wednesday I wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to go work out. So I go work out. As soon as I get done working out, I spend a little time on my message, just my time of kind of like preparing for the day, and then I just started meeting people. So I met with students, and I had meetings literally from like 8 to 3.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going. Like I eventually had dinner, but then my wife and I, we've joined the Spanish class. We're trying to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
And we joined the Spanish class, so 6:30 to 8 we did Spanish. 8 to 9, leading the volunteer meeting right before our group, and then 9 o'clock having the service. 10:30 we go in to play basketball, and at 1:17 I walked out of the church, locked it up, and my body was exhausted, but like my spirit, like I felt so full, you know. Mm-hmm. And it gets even better because.
Did you win?
No, we didn't win. My team didn't win a single game, and there was like 20 teams in it.
Right.
As the basketball tournament started, Pastor Rick texted me. He said, hey, we got a spot open on the golf course in the morning. You want to go? And I was like, well, I don't know. I better not. He was like, 6 o'clock, I'll pick you up. And I was like, all right, I'm in. And so I got home, finally fell asleep like 1:45, and then Pastor Rick picked me up at 6 to go golfing the next morning.
Right.
And to me, and then obviously like Friday, so Fridays we get the day off. So then Friday, I'm just resting. Because I'm not so like you got to keep pushing through. I'm like, no, eventually you got to rest. You know. Yeah. And so I knew that was coming. So it allowed me to really do the things I wanted to do. And so that's a high level Wednesday.
That's a full day.
But Wednesdays for the most part can really mimic that.
Yeah.
Because it's just stuff keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
But.
Well, I think I'd love to sit here for hours. I know we can, but for the people watching, listening, I'm sure we'll get you on the podcast.
That'd be
listen
cool.
for an hour and we can talk big times. But just for this, guys, thanks for checking in. Timmy, pleasure as always to have you. And guys, BFC Wednesday nights.
9 p.m. Yeah. Well, first of all, I just love what Mike's doing. He encourages me all the time. Constantly just see him wanting to be better in every area of his life. And then also to be like, let me come volunteer. Let me give up some of my time. And so that's really cool, which we believe, the secret to living is giving. Right. And so 100%. If you're not giving of yourself in some capacity, you're really not going to get better. But anyway, Mike's awesome. And most of you probably already love This Is Oklahoma.
I hope so.
But now start telling your friends. Share it. We want more people to know about it. So.
And if there's anyone else that you think we should have on the podcast or have on the show, the people, first episode, we need plenty more for the first series. So get in the comments, let us know.
Sweet. See ya.